And we're live. Content provided at the event is for general information only, not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Any performance reference is historical and there is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Any economic forecast set forth during the event may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that any strategy will be successful. These thoughts and opinions are those of Gimbal Financial and do not represent the views of LPL Financial. Securities offered through LPL Financial, a member of FINRA and SIPC, and investment advice is offered through Gimbal Financial, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial. Good morning. Sorry, I was just using the litter box. Got to wash my hands.
How did you do that? Are you a cat? What are you? What are you?
The closest thing I could find. It's a lioness, but we're gonna go with cat.
I am not.
I gotta get it off.
I'm glad that you know how to turn that off. That's hilarious.
I swear I'm not a cat. That should be the disclaimer. I am not a cat.
Oh, man.
I'm here and I'm ready to go.
That is the best ever. Thank you, Mr. Conaway, for sending me that last week.
If you guys haven't seen that video, check it out. It's really funny about, what would you say, a cat filter in virtual court?
Yeah, cat filter, judge. It'll probably get you there.
Well, how are you guys this morning?
Hey, good. I greetings also to Brandon. Brandon, I talked to this guy, Brandon, yesterday, and he's a dude I met when I was out in Colorado this fall. And Brandon was interested in stocks. So we just talked a bit, and he sent me a text letting me know that he had watched all of Gimbal Financial's videos, including the Curious Investors.
Wow.
So like within 3 days, he had watched all of them. And so anyway, nice work on expanding your education.
Is that Gimbal's first binge watcher?
Yeah, that's right. He's a binge watcher.
That's really cool. Yeah, check them all out. We've got Curious Investors on the road. All of our weekly updates are on our YouTube channel.
If you do happen to binge watch on the YouTube, you can set the speed on that so you can turn it up just a little bit if we're talking a little too slowly for you.
Yeah, subscribe and like so that we can be like YouTube famous people and live on yachts and stuff.
What kind of yacht, or what would you do with all that money, Doug? Like if you had 1,000 times more money than you do today, what would you do with it?
I honestly have no clue. I'd probably be ruined. I wouldn't want it.
Amanda, if you had 1 million times more money than you have today, what would you do differently?
I can't say much.
I think
Travel, that'd be my guess.
I might have a driver. That'd be my luxury, a driver. That'd be fun for a while. I mean, I can't hit the curves during icy days or things on my own.
Have you seen The Lincoln Lawyer? That movie?
Yeah.
He's got a driver.
I like that. That's a good movie this weekend. If you guys, particularly the ladies, don't they like Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah, I like Matthew McConaughey.
Another thing, if you haven't read his book, Green Light's fantastic. Go check that out.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Not that we're endorsing any of these things. I'm just things that I like that you might like too.
What's that Apple show that we were talking about that was pretty good?
Oh, Ted Lasso.
Yeah, don't watch that with your kids.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty good one.
I don't think you can watch a TV with your kids anymore.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, we got hooked on this show, The Chosen, but it's an app on your phone. Oh my goodness, it's wonderful.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You know, I digress. I was getting ready to talk about the book 1984 and apps and things, but we'll talk about that another time. So.
I'm sure some of us have read that.
Yeah, it's a fascinating book. What's really fascinating is there was a day when 1984 was a long time away from me. And now, here we go again. It's now a long time away from me.
Well, and I was thinking about the 80s actually this morning. One of my sons popped in and he said, "Hey, on YouTube, I watched the Mars rover." And have you guys seen that, the Mars rover thing? It is so cool. It's like the size of a SUV. It's on Mars, and it's going to unberth a little helicopter, and they're going to fly that thing around. I mean, it's just amazing stuff. And so when I was a kid, like in the early 80s, I was drawing pictures of space shuttles, and I figured that I'd be vacationing on the moon by now. And so it's really exciting to see where exploration and creativity are taking us. And I want to say that the Chinese and United Arab Emirates, I think they have a craft in orbit right now, but we were the first to touch down. So that's pretty exciting.
When I was a kid, not in the 80s or not in the mid 80s, when I was an adult in the mid 80s, I was in Houston, and there were a lot of things going on with NASA. There's a good book out there called The Rocket Man that's worth reading. It tells a history of space travel and things and the purpose behind that. But that was where I was when the space shuttle exploded, and it was an interesting time. And kind of bridge from that to the challenges that our friends in Houston and Texas are going through right now with technological challenges with the power grid. So our prayers go out to those folks. And part of that's maybe why we're here every week is talking about the solutions to a lot of the problems that we have in the world come from the capitalist point of view. And so the things that are going wrong in Houston or in Texas now, there are going to be solutions probably sooner than we can even imagine. Like, who could have imagined we would have navigated through 2020 as well as we did with the government just turning things off last year? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And that just goes with the can-do attitude. I think that's the best place to start. For the people down in Texas, I've got a friend in Dallas, and he owns a heating and cooling company. And it's a different environment, but I'm sure there will be changes, there'll be innovations made, and solutions that will help for next time.
Yeah.
Disruption's not a bad thing. We've talked about that plenty of times. It just leads to more innovation. So
it's cold there, it's cold here, it's cold in Mars. It's minus 130 in Mars.
it always looks way hotter.
Yeah, Fahrenheit. Pretty chilly day.
Or I shouldn't be complaining then, right?
No, you should not be complaining at all.
I think 35 below is my record. I don't know.
Yeah, you probably win on that one.
I'm one of the only crazy people to go to Alaska in February, though. So what are you going to do? Well, we are another week into this bull market. The political backdrop will have some impact, I think, on what's going on in our economy. It's hard for governments to change rules, spend money, and do things without it having an impact. What are you thinking about today, Doug?
Well, I was looking at the NASDAQ earlier this morning, and I noticed something kind of interesting. This week, we've had 3 down days, and we haven't had 3 down days for a long time. And I was looking back to, what was it, October, September, and we had a couple 3 down days in a row, but they've all been able to stand right along a couple of the major moving averages, find some support, and see rebound. And so we want to be cautious, but at the same time, we want to stay in front of ideas and solutions. And technology has been leading the way. I have to wonder, though, like someday, like this week, my kids had a couple e-learning days. Snow days are gone. There will never be a snow day again. And I have to wonder if the kids, like in my son's generations, if someday they'll short all the stocks that are allowing e-learning and that are allowing virtual conferencing, because they will never have a snow day again. But anyway, it's just kind of interesting to see some of the selling take place this week and have it hover right above one of its major moving or one of its averages.
I guess I would take a different approach to that. I would long for the day that they wouldn't even go to school, that they would be able to just click on and get the necessary requirements in whatever avenue they would like. I think it would be a real interesting thing. The
We need to have you come over then
Yeah.
and see firsthand what this is like.
Well, it's only 100-year-old problem. It's not. It's rethinking the thing, and I just think the idea of like the Khan Academy and a lot of those things open a lot of new possibilities. But that's that disruptive thought process. Is unfortunately, and I'll get, I'm sure, booed on this, that there's not much disruption in socialistic kind of institutions that are out there. And socialistic, I just say things that are completely funded by the government. If they're funded by the government, there's no incentive for increased efficiencies. And so
slow change.
Just almost no change. You
Yeah.
know, there was the what was it, about 10 years ago that Detroit got rid of their last horseshoer?
I don't know about the horseshoer.
Yeah, they got rid of their last what's that job called? The guy that puts the horseshoes on
the horseshoe guy?
No, it's some Smith.
No.
What Smith is it? It's the
yeah, I should know this.
One of our
horse people, feel free to email.
You can tell us which Smith it is. It's blacksmith. The blacksmith.
There's somebody who puts on the horseshoes.
Yeah. So, but that's what happens with those types of things in our economy, is that they're not forced by just the profit and loss motive to become more efficient, and consequently they'll absorb as much money as given to them. And so the challenge is, I think, for our kids in education, in my view, is just to take their endpoint, what they're trying to get to, and prepare them for something that vocationally will work for them. And back when public schools kind of ramped up in the early 1900s, the goal was to make them productive in the economy as a result of the Industrial Revolution. So that prior to that, the parents would train them to live on how to milk a cow and do things on the farm. But when they moved from the agrarian economy to Industrial Revolution, the school system was designed to prepare them to go work in the factory. And I don't know that that's really been the objective. The school seems to be the objective, to prepare them for more education, to go to college.
Right.
And then college has evolved that there's degrees and all kinds of things that don't necessarily prepare them for a vocation. So that's where I see the challenge for the kids are going to be as they go forward. So,
and the greatest tool that they probably have that we didn't have is Google. Farers is the word.
Farers.
For someone that puts on horseshoes.
There you go. And so for example, we were having technical difficulties before this meeting started, and our brain sets weren't able to fix those technical difficulties. So we picked up a phone, FaceTimed a teenager. The teenager walked us through the things, and so he is adequately prepared to work in a business today, I think, if he can do those technical things that employers need out there. So that's the thought process. I think the kids, no matter whether that's coming from a school system or from the parents, is that the whole goal of education is to prepare them for work. And so, in my view, everybody else might have a different view, but I think it's exciting what's out there today. So we looked at the NASDAQ, and I digressed, I'm sorry on that, guys, but if you look right here, what is this green line, Doug?
What is that? The 21? Is it 21?
21 day.
So it's a 21-day moving average?
Yes. And so if you look what's gone on pretty much since this September drop here that we rallied off of, and almost all the way last spring, that green line, every time the market would drop down to that green line, the buyers would step up, and often they would step up in pretty good volume.
Yeah.
They would come up and start pushing it off that low right there. And the next thing you know, it's just yo-yoing around the 21-day moving average. And that's gone on since this September dip, and just on
and volume being just a lot of shares.
Yeah. And so we saw
moving around.
We saw yesterday where it just touched that 21-day average and jumped off of it like a trampoline.
I remember when I first discovered that the market would tend to bounce off a major average like that. And you see it everywhere. Every time you look at places now, when it goes through one, like it did back in the early days of coronavirus, it and if it goes through um, with a lot of volume, that's normally not a positive sign. And we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that really since what, September? And
Yeah,
so it's been a
yeah,
pretty healthy place, while at the same time, I think it's Warren Buffett's quote that said, it wasn't raining when Noah was building the ark. And so we've had a little bit of a cautious stance. For some of you who are clients, that we've been a little cautious, and and that's the reason. Is if this were to go through one of those moving averages, we'd want to be have some safe assets.
yeah. And I think, I guess the battle as we're looking at it is, traditionally there are things that drive the market, events. It's supply and demand is what drives the market. Is in any given day, there's just buyers and sellers coming to the market, and nobody really knows their reason for doing such. Ordinarily, today is a more risky day in the market. It's the what they call the triple witching hour. It's where we have three option indices that are coming due today at the end of the market, and all kinds of jockeying for position will be going on for investors. And normally those are institutional size investors who have significant strategies they're using to protect or to leverage their portfolios. And so today, I wouldn't be surprised to see today's activity in the market get a little squirrely throughout the day. And it's just the nature of these days on the third Friday of every month when these options come due, what happens in the markets.
Yeah, and then that really ramps up, quarterly when we see that. And so basically, yeah, there's just options. There's people who are wanting liquidity. There are people who are optimists and buying, but a lot of times it just creates more shares being traded.
Yeah, and so when you talk about the volume, I think what you'll see with the political activity there, if we have $1.5 trillion of money that is pumped out of the government into the economy, those dollars are not going into the reserve system. They're going into the hands of people to spend that money. And so there'll be a couple things that'll happen with that. Well, maybe more than a couple. There'll be a lot of things that'll happen. You'll see corporations will chase after those orders. They'll have their revenues go up. So you'll probably see corporate earnings, 6-12 months out, starting to rally from that.
And they've been good right now.
Yeah, without it, we've been doing just fine. You're going to see probably some of that money come into the stock market. I was reading yesterday, I forget the number. I think the incremental savings I read yesterday that the U.S. citizens had over the last 12 months was about $1.5 trillion. So in a difficult economy, U.S. Consumers have saved $1.5 trillion of money, and their ability then to need money from the government seems pretty sketchy to me. But this money is going to come out, so what that tends to be is inflationary, and so you probably see some of that inflationary pressure, maybe pushing stock prices up. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. And it's, for some of you that are looking at rates and depending on rates for your yield on investments or your income on investments, or you're looking at rates as you're thinking about buying something big, we really, it'll be interesting to see what rates do. It may take a little while for those things to catch up, but you could probably see, like he's saying, see it in earnings. You might even see it in the cost of something like, your ink pen going up. But real rise in rates where your CDs start doing better. It may even be 18 months, a couple years out.
Yeah, I think that probably a realistic place where you'll, as consumers, see it if you just kind of keep some of your receipts from the grocery for the next 2 or 3 months, and just if you shop weekly and just see what kind of trend you see on those things as you go through the next few weeks, because when that money hits the economy, it's going to go somewhere, and there's going to be more money chasing the same amount of goods initially, and so that'll tend to be inflationary.
Yep. I hope they stay low just enough so I can lock in a mortgage.
I think
you'll be all
I
right.
think I'm good.
yeah, I think you'll do just fine. So I was working on next month's newsletter, and one of the ideas that I was working on was a kind of helping people organize their financial situation. And we put together this resource about a decade or so ago for people. And if you've not seen a copy of Financial Survivors, let us know. We might be able to help you out with one of those things. But it just gives practical information on how to organize your financial situation should an unexpected departure from this planet occur, and it allows your loved ones an easier cleanup possibility. And the easier that you structure things as you go, the less you have to clean up at the end. It's like my garage. If I keep it clean regularly, there's not this big garage cleanup thing that we had last summer.
Yeah, I'm curious what people are doing today in order to keep it simple. Knowing that you do have every life has has a final end date. That's a pretty exciting thing to talk about. That just to keep your life simple and stay flexible. I'm curious what people are doing. I know we had a young couple last week have a big win where they paid off their mortgage completely. And that was a pretty exciting day. They basically just traded assets that were once in the market for an asset that they heat and cool. And that was a pretty exciting day for them that will hopefully bring them a lot of freedom. I'm curious what other people are doing, if it's maybe not paying off their mortgage, but they have predictable income. Maybe they got a good cash flow coming in, or a safety net that they didn't have before. And so now it's just a great time. It's you're not going anywhere this weekend. You might just sit down and think through what are the dreams that would help us increase freedom, help us explore the creative things that are important to us that we want to learn about and take risks on. And it could be a combination of one of those things: paying off debt, securing more cash flow, or having a better base.
And even creatively, as you look over your 401k, your IRA, or any of your retirement accounts or insurance policies, those sort of things, now's a good time to pull out those beneficiary designations and blow the dust off of those and see what you actually have listed there. And it may make sense to call your attorney or call us and talk through those designations, because they're going to generally supersede what your will or estate plan might say. And you want to make sure, if that's a big portion of your wealth, that it gets where you're thinking it's going to go. And the best way to do that is to do your beneficiary designation. And one of those, we had helped some clients a couple decades ago that the one spouse left some assets to the surviving spouse, and that surviving spouse left its children and grandchildren. And I was talking to one of the grandchildren there, so the third generation. Yeah. And the old rules allowed that you could take the IRA distributions out over your life expectancy. And that allowed you to really stretch out some inheritance, allowed you annually to think of that loved one. And so yesterday I was having a conversation with one of these people, and we were reflecting, because we both knew the grandparents, we were reflecting on the generosity that they had. And this one told me how they got when they got their annual required distribution out of their account, what they were using it for. And they were buying hockey equipment and fishing, kayaking equipment in memory of grandma and grandpa. I thought that was really cool. So the resources you have today, you can position them and transition them so that they do really cool things for a time that you won't even know.
That's probably the answer to your question. Like, if I had, what was your question? If I had $1 trillion or more money than I knew what to do with, it will go somewhere. And to think that it could really enhance somebody's life, or catapult them, or give them an escape from the daily grind where they could do their hobby or focus on things that are important to them, that's pretty exciting to think about.
Yeah, and I think we would, as a team, would buck against most of the modern kind of pundits' opinions of what you should do with resources. I would say that we're probably more advocates even of giving that money to those people while you're able to watch them use them. Like, if you could give your grandkids some money and go out and watch them play hockey with the gear that you gave them. That would be just as cool as knowing that maybe one day they will do that. But what that would mean is you're going to have less money on your net worth statement, and you're going to transition that to those loved ones. And that's a good tightrope to kind of walk down and think where you want those resources to be.
Well, I just have two things. One is that the invites for the food truck fun day are out. If you didn't get an email, check your junk mail. I'm going to try to figure that out this week.
What are we calling that? Food truck fun day? Is that what you said? I like
I
that.
absolutely did.
Food trucks are fun.
Or FTF, Food Truck Fun Day. Also tax day, but Food Truck Fun Day sounds like way better for me. And then secondly, if you don't have a 1099 yet, all the 1099s, either they're real today or they're preliminary. So if you don't get your real one, you should have it next week or soon. But call us to let us to see if you are still wondering if there's one out there. But LPL should have the preliminaries at the very minimum out today. So as we
couple
get
things that generate 1099s are either you're taking some income off your account, like a retirement account, you might get a 1099-R. And for some of you, you've been doing that for years. You didn't have to do it last year, it was suspended. But if you get a 1099-R, that means you're taking some income off a retirement account. And if you have questions about what that's going to look like for 2021 or what's required of you for 2021, or if maybe you're approaching 70 and you think, oh, don't I need to start taking this? Well, they changed the rules on you. And so just feel free to give us a call and we can chat about your situation.
Cool. You guys got anything else?
I don't think so. No.
Well, cool. Well, you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the snow.
You have a great one as well, and try to keep warm.
I'll do my best.
See you next week.
Bye.